Let's just take a few moments then together and try to remember, why is Christmas Day on December the 25th? Ring, ring, ring a ding.
It's the birth of our Lord Jesus Christ.
Yes.
Is that a very, very small fire, or are those huge fires?
It's a midwinter solstice. It's a pagan festival that's been appropriated by Christianity.
There is a great deal of truth in that.
Do I get the points back?
You will certainly get some back. It was indeed, there's a Teutonic, Celtic and pagan view that if you survived the winter solstice on the 21st of December, you have a feast to celebrate. But also, there was the Roman god.
Was it Saturnalia?
There was the Saturnalia was also at that time of year, but there was Mithras.
Just the two of them were there?
Well, there are amazing things claimed about Mithras, and I'll read you some of them. He was a saviour, Mithras, sent to earth to live as a mortal, through whom it was possible for sinners to be reborn into immortal life. He died for our sins, but came back to life the following Sunday. He was born of a virgin on December the 25th in a manger or perhaps a cave, attended by shepherds, and became known as the light of the world. He had 12 disciples with whom he shared a last meal before dying. His devotees symbolically consumed the flesh and blood of him. Because Mithras was a sun god, he was worshipped on Sundays.
Is he a tribute band?
He's often depicted with a halo around his head.
Oh.
And Mithrists gave each other gifts on December the 25th. The leader of the religion was called a Papa, and their HQ was on Vatican Hill in Rome.
And you're not kind of writing off the chance that this was just a massive coincidence. And that one day that they all went to the Vatican and went, what? Hang on.
Well, a lot of Christian scholars have since been very angry at some of this research, which came out in 1903 about Mithras, and they claim it's nonsense.
There's a few flaws, though, aren't there? I mean, I've never heard a bloke go, "Oh, Mithras," when he's coming. Have you?
No, you're right. I'm not sure the Christians would point to that as somehow a vindication of their religion. It's certainly true that there are dozens of religions in world mythology that have had visits by wise men, kings who've killed children to stop the new king being born. There's a great deal in Christianity that is traditional. And however wonderful people think the story is, it's frankly not original.
This is an interesting direction to start your Christmas special with.
Mithras. Christianity and Mithras. Yeah, very interesting, man. Very interesting. Right, let me just turn the speaker off. So, yeah, excuse me. So, yeah, the research I've been doing in the City of London over the last couple of months has been to do with Mithras. So, I went into a little art place, a little art gallery, which was based on the which is Bloomberg and Mithrium, which was based on, like I say, I was going into sort of the ancient stuff again and go back into geology, to do with the cave system, and looking at the stagmites, never say them correctly. So I found a shot based on that, and then started looking into the Mithrium. I see someone's already been watching me, and they've jumped straight over into and had to put their bit out to do with Mithras. They just had to do it, didn't they? You know you are. But you know I respect you anyway. But I know it's just you had to do that for the tinfoil hat. I get that. You know you had to do the Mithras thing. You know. But anyway, so that's what I've been looking into the last couple of months. It's the other part of history that I've been trying to work out. So I've been going into Mithras and looking into Mithras. And there's a lot of art galleries actually based on Mithras all around central London anyway. I just want to read out a little part about it, because I want to go into these art galleries and find out well, these actually art museums which are based on London in the ancient times and Mithras as well. So London Mithrium, Bloomberg, Space Returns, and the Roman Temple of Mithras to the location of its in the heart of the City of London, which is situated on the site of Bloomberg's European headquarters. This unique cultural space showcases the reconstructed temple and a selection of the remarkable Roman artifacts found during recent excavations and a series of contemporary and commissions responding to the UK's most significant and archaeological sites. Built on the special place, this building lies over the course of one of London's lost rivers, the Walberg, nearly 2,000 years ago when Londinium was founded by the Romans. The river marked the limits of their first settlement. As the town prospered and expanded, the banks of Walberg were reclaimed and the valley gradually filled the layers of soil building debris. In the 3rd century AD, nearly 200 years after the founding of the Lindarium, a Roman Londoner, possibly an army veteran called Oppius Silvanus, built a temple to the god Mithras on the reclaimed ground next to the river. The discovery of the temple of Mithras on the site in 1954 and excavations in 2010 to 2014 as part of Bloomberg project. In the artifact which Walberg Valley have demonstrated just what a special place this is. Very interesting. So this is the research I'm doing into the outskirts of the Roman Empire, and still trying to jump forward to try and find out, you know, really who is running this world. And like I said before, I don't think it is the Roman Empire, the Vatican. I don't think it's the 13 Italian families, but this is just my opinion on my research. But like I said, I've come basically down to 2 at the moment, which is down to the British and the French. So we're going to keep looking, and in the meantime we're going to go over Mithras as well, and the research of Mithras, and we're going to do a bit of research on that, which is the research that I've been doing in central London, the city of London, to do with Mithras. Explore the Roman artifacts. So this is where you can go to see, in the centre city of London, you can go to places. They have a galleries and that here that is all based on Mithras, and they have a lot of artifacts that's been taken, obviously stolen. We all know everything that the British take, well, they do take, they steal. It's not like they buy this stuff, they steal it from other countries and they put it into the city of London. They've been doing this for a long time. Yeah, the royal family and that have been doing it for a long time as well. You know, stealing artifacts, and they all end up in London museums when they've just basically been stolen to be put in there. And they need to go back to where they've really come from. They need to go back to where they came from originally, to be honest with you. So there's actual sites based on the Roman Empire and the Roman artifacts, which all goes down to Mithras as well. So over 600 objects left and lost by the first Londoners on the sites, including the earliest written documented from Britain. So all these Roman artifacts that have actually been found from Londoners originally, you know, probably going back over 100 years. So over 600 objects were actually found, retrieved and found. Ground level in the city of London was changed dramatically through centuries of living and building. See just how far that we have come. Find out more of the mystery cult of Mithras and discover the temple of Mithras. That's what we're going to look into. See the reconstruction ruins and experience the modern evacuation of the cult of Mithras. Visit Bloomberg Space and discover a contemporary art commission that offers a unique perspective on the significant archaeological sites. Exploring the Roman artifacts themselves. The depth of the archaeological deposits on the site that has waterlogged nature and Walberg Valley provided excellent conditions for the preservation of archaeological artifacts, including organic material like wood and leather, and which really has rarely survived. The excavations in advance in the construction of Bloomberg European headquarters produced more Roman finds than any other single site in the city of London. And the discoveries of transforming and understanding the funding of the capital. More than 14,000 individual artifacts have been recovered. 63,000 shards of Roman pottery and 3 tons of animal bones were found. Wow. providing evidence of trade, food and industry. The artefacts can explore into the London Mithraeum and the sample of some of the everyday things that were left and lost by the Roman ancestors, or by our Roman ancestors. Each object tells a story, was made, handled, treasure, worn, consumed, lost and discarded by someone from Londonerium. Learn about these artefacts through descriptions in the case, or use our digital interactive on the tablets provided in the museums, which can go to the City of London to see this stuff. And you can try on your mobile device and search out websites all regarding onto the London Mithraeum. When did the people of the past live underground? So let me just show you this. There's a table there that you may be able to pick up. I hope you can. So descend through the time. Why did people in the past live underground? So from 1941, World War II, Bloomberg destroys most of the buildings on their site. AD 410 or 410 AD, Britain no longer ruled from Rome. So from 410 AD going up to 1941. This is one of the questions urban archaeologists are asked most frequently. The simple answer is that they didn't. Essentially, centuries of living and non-removable building debris or rubbish have led to the ground level rising. Wow. So the modern site level of the Bloomberg European headquarters is up to 9 metres above the earliest of the Roman deposits. The archaeological excavations and historical records from this site have allowed us to show different levels and London history as the descent via the staircase to the lift of the mezzanine level, where you arrive the very last days of the Romans in Britain around 410 AD. Discover Mithras, the head of Mithras. Almost everything we know about Mithras today is the result of interpretation. There are no accurate eyewitnesses' account of how Mithras was worshipped or descriptions from members of the cult what Mithras symbolised. I'm going to have to read that again for you. Listen up closely. Almost everything we know about Mithras today is the result of interpretation. There are no accurate eyewitnesses' accounts of how Mithras was worshipped or descriptions of the members of the cult of Mithras symbolised. The central icon of the cult is the image of Mithras killing a bull, which modern scholars have interpreted as the creation myth or a creation myth encompassing fertility and perhaps vision of the universe. Our ideas of the rituals and beliefs come from the archaeological sites of these actual rituals. Like this one, where the shape of the structure of the building and the artifacts recovered providing intriguing clues to what Mithric rituals may have been like, of the rituals that they were doing of Mithras. Explore the exhibition in the mezzanine space to understand of how these clues have been put together to create an evacuation of the Temple of Mithras. Entering the Temple of Mithras. This is in the central city of London, like I said. Right, entering the Temple of Mithras. Descending from the mezzanine, you reach the lowest level of the site, ground level to the middle of the 3rd century AD, and the 7 metres below modern pavements. Here you can see the experience and the reconstruction remains of the Temple of Mithras, what is left of the Temple of Mithras. This is a faithful recreation of ruin that was discovered in the 1952 to 1954. The original archaeological drawings, model photographs, newsreel footage and photographs donated by the public have been used to create plans which in the team of skilled masons and conservators have worked to build the new reconstruction of Mithras. Wow. Lime mortals from the 3rd century London structures have been sampled to get the right mix for this, and where materials such as Roman bricks or tiles were missing. New handmade bricks have been commissioned. All the stone that you see in the temple and most of the bricks are from the original structure, but the mortals and renders of the walls and the timbers are new. So they basically just to reconstruct, like they've done with a lot of the old buildings. They've done their best to reconstruct them and build them up to, you know, to keep them going, basically. It would be cool if they would, you know, keep on doing that rather than just smashing them all down and taking them all down. Right, so the temple is original level, but it's been moved slightly to the west of its original location. This is because, against all expectations, remains of some of the original temple were found to survive beneath the mezzanine floor. So basically hard to move, I guess. These remains are deep within the waterlogged Walbrook landfill layers and are too fragile to display. Yeah, but we hear this all the time that they say about this, but are they lying about that? Or are they telling the truth? This is, you know, because they're not going to show us, so we will never find out. So Walbrook landfill layers are too fragile to display and have been carefully preserved. Right, so we only have your word to go by that, you know. When you go into the Temple of Mithras, you will see the reconstruction of the ruins as it is the last day of excavation in October 1954. So October 1954 was the last time of excavation for the site. This is the earliest phase of the temple as it is originally built on in 240 AD, strips of later additions to the alterations. One of the key aims to the London Mithraeum project is to evoke the mystery of being the Roman temple of Mithras. Through the haze of light, you will experience an ephemeral installation to the complements of the reconstruction. Right, so the London construction, so from London, that will be from 1954, yeah? So this is the construction of the site on activations, I can't even say the word, but when they found the site, the last excavations were done in 1952 to 1954, as you see there. But I've put out information about these kind of sites already that they were made up. So this is the whole point of me looking into the Mithras site, which would be just another site that could have been falsified, like we've seen with all the ancient sites. We're going from the main temples, like the pyramids, and all these other temples as well that were just built onto grass mounds. So just the mounds were in the pyramid, the grass mounds of the earth were just built up into triangle mounds, the pyramid mounds, and then they built brick on top of them. So you see this of all the ancient sites now, which is what the Freemasons that were doing. They say we're activation them, trying to preserve them, trying to look after them. But no, they were actually lying, and they were trying to show what was left over from these sites, but actually these were the people from the British that actually put these sites here. They made these sites up around these times in the 50s or in the 40s. I mean, from 1935 to 1950, especially the 40s, the 1940s concerning history, there was so much going on with the construction of sites and reconstruction and building up and trying to find these sites. But a lot of them were just falsified for us to give us all a false history, to give us this false history. And this is what we see on these sites. And I've put out videos already, not only of a month ago, explaining about all these sites that were just made. So the pyramids themselves were just mounds of grass, of mounds, and the brick was built on top of it. So it was all lies. But again, the diamond inside, which has been built onto the inside of the pyramid itself, which comes under the Freemasonry, which I said of the Freemasonry and the diamonds, goes back to the Freemasonry and their rings of diamonds. the octahedron. So they put this down there. You know, they made the octahedron and put it there and done the pyramid as the octahedron, which all goes back to the false sites. And this goes back to the Mayans and all these as well, where the brick was just built on top of the mounds. So these temples that you see, and these old temples and cathedrals, well, let's just stick to temples at the moment. So these temples that were put there were just falsified to give us a false history. Remember, whoever's in charge of the history from the 1900s or the late 1800s, they make up that history and they push that history forward, and that's what they've done with these sites. Falsified these sites, all of them. So in 1952 to 1954, a chance discovery on the bomb site revealed the Temple of Mithras. It was a huge, significant discovery that captured the imagination of people of post-war Britain. As the lead archaeologist, William Grimes, said the discovery was in the nature of a fluke, and it was only a whole series of chance events that led us to this being found and to the press and the public's interest that followed onto this. Well, no, because that was falsified. They pushed the press onto this to give us all this false history. And it was a whole series of chance events, right, interests have followed. The response of the discovery was the overwhelming, with more than 30,000 people queuing on some days. The excavation neared its conclusion, and debate ranged into the government and the press about what should happen to the ruins. But we already know what was going to be. Well, I'm obviously revealing all this now, like I did last month, of just for revealing of all these false sites. Should it stay on the new building? And like I said at the start of this talk, as I was starting to talk about Mithras, there's no proof of Mithras. It's been coming out as a myth, and people are putting it out as a myth. Now, whether I'm sure Mithras herself was, or the god, was real, or was it real? Was all these gods real, or were they just gods that were made up over the last sort of 3 centuries? So this is what we're trying to find out. So the discovery of Mithras has been put under mythology, of course. So the response to the discovery of the overwhelming more than 30,000 people queuing in some days to the excavation neared to the conclusion. The debate ranged in the government and the press about what should happen to the ruins. Should it stay or the new building be redesigned? And was the archaeological record enough to show could go? The building developer stepped into the compromise, offering to dismantle the temple and reconstruct it somewhere else on the site. So in 1962, a reconstruction of the temple was unveiled, roughly 100 metres from its original location, moved. It was not an accurate reconstruction and was criticised for the materials used, because they used new materials. It wasn't the original materials. And the loss of the archaeological detail, of course, it was taken away all details of the original site itself. And did serve as, however, it did serve as a powerful physical reminder of the site's heritage. Yeah, but you can just do that through basic history. You know, you don't need to taking parts of that site and relocating it somewhere else with different materials, because it's not the original thing. You're just doing it to the original, or the best you can to the original structure itself. Physical reminder of the site's rich heritage and one of the few Roman monuments visible in London. Now, we have a place in the city of London called Bishop Square, and under Bishop Square is where they have a lot of these art, these museums, and they've built the when they said about like nuclear weapons or nuclear bombs back in them time, or whatever bombs there were, it was burning people alive. So they build these sites underneath Bishop Square, these museums, which is what I'm reading about. And these people got burnt alive, and they've got them as models of just statues that are burned, but they're still standing there alive, but they're burned. You see these in the museum, and I saw these when I first started working as a bicycle courier over 16 years ago. I started looking into those you know, the Roman sites that they've built underneath, were just reconstructions. Right, so when Bloomberg acquired the site at 2010, they were fully aware of the responsibility of looking after this structure and taking it to its next phase. Bloomberg worked with the City of London and the team of conservation specialists to dismantle the temple and reconstruct it close to its original position, which was 100 metres away. Original position, a level recreating the form of the original ruin within the publicity accessible space. About the Temple of Mithras. The London Mithraeum is one of around 100 known throughout the Roman world. It is the rectangle in shape, just like the Mithraeum, rectangle in shape. With the when I finished off looking into the flat Earth, it was actually that shape. That shape. Remember? That was the last bit of research I'd done on the flat Earth, that the Earth was that shape. The London Mithraeum is around 100 known throughout the Roman world as a rectangle in shape like most Mithraea, but largely the average measuring around 8 millimetres to 8 metres. The central nave is where it is. Hold on. The central nave is where it is thought that rituals took place, with 2 aisles for seating congregation around 30 separation from the nave. Hold on a second. The central nave is where it is thought the rituals took place, with the 2 aisles of seating congregation around 30 separate from the nave from the sleeper walls and the 7 columns on either side, perhaps representing the 7 grades and the cults. Again, that is the seating area. Unusual is rounded apse of one of that would have featured the statue of Mithras on the raised platform. So they would put the statue of Mithras there, and then they do the rituals around Mithras, the statue, the head of Mithras. So they would put it there in their worshipping temple, put the head of Mithras there, and then do rituals over the head of Mithras. Wow. Unusually, its rounded apse of the end would have featured a statue of Mithras and on a raised platform. The stone head of Mithras found in 1954 under the site, which is what we're talking about right now, is likely to have been used in the statue, with the rest of the body and the ball made from plaster. Mithraea appeared to have had no windows and would have been lit by lamps, torches. Obviously that gives it that look of the rituals. Mithraea appeared to have had no windows and would have been lit by lamps, torches and braziers. 4 small holes beyond the statue plinth may have carried torches, creating lighting effects, while a timber tank of simulated well-held water used in the rituals. The Mithraeum was built on the east side of the Walberg stream, on made-up ground, a descendant of watercourse. Excavations on the east side of the modern Walberg Street have revealed evidence of the large Roman building, and it's possible that the temple sat in the back garden of the private house. The inscription on the Torretorial relief, which is found close to the temple site in 1889, which may give us the name of the original founder, Ulpius Sylvanus. Right, about the site. I'll see a drawing there. London's first centuries. London was founded by the Romans just a few years after the conquest of Britain in 43 AD under the leadership of the Emperor Claudius. There was no earlier settlement, and the Romans chose this site to logistical reasons. It may be the first place in up the Thames estuary that the river could be bridged, and there was enough of dry ground on either side of the river for a road network. So road all the way through. The north bank in particular was suitable for a port and a town, which is what we see in the photo. Picture. In the first few years, Londarium busted with merchants and traders exploiting the business opportunities presented by the invasion. A revolt led to the native Iceni queen Boudica in 60 to 61 AD, resulted in the total destruction of the settlement. However, by 70 AD, Londarium was once used to expand and the feature known public buildings, a forum, a marketplace, amphitheatre. So 70 AD, Londarium was once again expanded, and he featured new public buildings, a forum, marketplace, amphitheatre, public paths, temples, and new waterfront all being constructed. And we know about the amphitheatres now because we had Michael Tellinger done the documentary on the amphitheatres and on cathedrals and stadiums and colosseums, which all were based on the amphitheatres of the vibrate. And the amphitheatres were the vibrating columns that took our energy and our loosh and took it and pushed it up into the atmosphere. Everything means something, doesn't it? So the amphitheatres were definitely there, weren't they? They were definitely there. And like I said, you can go over Regent's Park on Google Maps and you will find all the ancient Roman amphitheatres there, still there. The proof of the amphitheatres. The site of Bloomberg's European headquarters was the heart of the Roman town. The main east-west side road was immediately north of the site and bridged the Walbrook River at the point that would now be directly outside the Bloomberg buildings. Entrance on the Bucklesbury, although the level of the Roman road was some 7 metres below of the modern pavement. 7 metres below. The archaeological excavations from 2010 to 2014 revealed evidence of the metal working taking place here just a few years after the founding of London. As rebuilding took off in the Baldican Review, the Romans brought domestic waste and soils from elsewhere to improve the martial banks of the rivers and buildings. And then we come to ancient Guildhall, City of London. Guildhall. These layers of the landfall contain many of the exceptional finds that you can see on the London Mithrium. This is the evidence that tells us that the levels of the first Londoners, small workshops, dwellers and bakeries, were all crammed into this busy neighbourhood, which was Guildhall, the City of London. How far we got there? So the evidence that tells about the levels of the Londoners' small workshops, dwellers of the bakeries, were all crammed into the busy neighbourhood, built on the reclaimed ground. Later masonry foundations and buildings were also revealed, including some fragmental remains of the 3rd century temples of Mithras, and the well that contained Peter vessels that may be used as a temple, deposited towards the very end of the Roman London. The Properius of busy neighbourhood. London didn't disappear after the Romans left, but it was London didn't disappear after the Romans left, but it did move. Saxon migrants arriving from the continent created a new town in the area of modern Covent Garden, which is not far from the City of London. Covent Garden, it was until the 9th century that the old Romans town was reoccupied Vikings raids, less into the Saxon king Alfred to move the population back within the Roman walls and to create a new port of the Quinhaive close to Bamberg. And Quinhaive is south side of central London. Yeah, south side of central London, Quinhaive, which is all down to ancient history, which is just joined. And Quinhaive joins onto the River Thames, which joins onto the River Thames and jumps over to the south side of the river of central London. So Roman walls to create a new port of Quinhaive close to Bamberg's European headquarters. Archaeological evidence for this period is rare because of the nature of the structures and later disturbance, but we now know that the road later called Buckensbury and the existence by the 10th century. By the 12th century, following the conquest by the Norman French king William, more substantial buildings were constructed on the site, including two churches, St Stephen Warburg and St Antholian. All the medieval buildings here were destroyed in the Great Fire and guess what year? All the medieval buildings here were destroyed in the Great Fire in 1666. There's that 666 again. Leading to the major rebuilding over the next 300 years, this area became more densely occupied with houses, businesses, all of London's life that we see after that. And then we go back into the staglites and stalagmites of the London Mithrium. The rest of this is all based again on the staglites and stalagmites, or staglatites and stalagmites, sorry. But yeah, that was just basically the history of the Mithras, down to the London Mithrium, which I started talking about 2 months ago. It seemed that Christopher Knowles jumped straight in and jumped into the god of Mithras straight away. Thank you for that, Christopher Knowles. It's only Christopher Knowles would actually do something like that, just to prove a point. So I do not have a problem with him doing that. I don't know whether he's done that to try and put one over on me with the tinfoil hat. I really don't know. I can't answer them questions. But, you know, it's definitely got a big tick there, hasn't it? That Christopher Knowles did that and then jumped into the god of Mithras when I mentioned the London Mithrium. All to do with the staglites and stalagmites. But anyway, you know, like I said, I am a fan of Christopher Knowles, so for me it's only Christopher Knowles that would jump in and do something like that, which is quite hilarious, but I'm a fan of Christopher Knowles. So yeah, thanks again for that, Christopher Knowles. You were one step, well, I'm not saying you was one step ahead of me, I was one step ahead of you and the tinfoil hat by originally talking about and bringing up, or re-bringing up, Mithrium and Mithras, the god Mithras. But again, there's the ritual part there where they do the ritual and they put the head of Mithras there to do their rituals. So they worship over the head of Mithras. Right, I know this has gone on for a long time, 40 minutes now. My reading isn't the best, as you all know anyway. Again, the museum under the City of London regarding the god of Mithras. The Temple of Mithras. So yeah, and just again before I go, it does seem that these sites that they say they're excavating, working on, been refound, redug up, excavated, and but I believe that they manipulated a lot of these sites all over the world, which is what I put out last month, a video last month showing all this and proving all this. And yeah, people still want to believe in the false history, you know. But there it is. That's the god of Mithras. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go into the museum in the City of London, and I'm sure there's gonna be people jumping straight ahead of me on this as well, you know. I don't know, maybe Christopher Knowles will play us some video evidence of the actual site itself. concerning Mithras, or maybe this is just a flyby thing for Christopher Niles to do, because I know that Christopher Niles goes into a lot of history regarding rituals and stuff like that, and the head of Mithras is still used to this day for rituals, which is pretty crazy, to be honest with you. So there it is, the god of Mithras. Very, very interesting. But I'm going to go into the museum. I'm going to film inside the museum, so you can see the reconstructions they've done of the Temple of Mithras. So you can see it. I'll show it to you. These sort of things, they're not advertised, obviously, like I said, they don't get advertised. Same as the staglolites and stalagmites, they don't get advertised. Basic geology will tell you about staglolites and stalagmites in mountains and stuff like that, inside mountains and caves and things like that. Which caves are just the inside of mountains anyway. Yeah, so yeah, we're going to look into more into the god of Mithras and that kind of history, because it's all regarding back to the Roman Empire. You know, the research I'm doing on the Roman Empire and the British and the French. A bit of the French, not too much of the French, but a bit of the French. And yeah, thank you, Christopher Niles. Thank you very much. And thank you all for listening to this crazy talk on the god of Mithras. Bye bye.